Hello, this is Pat O'Connor, and as a Texas property owner, you have the right to protest your property taxes each and every year. In fact, I would say it's your responsibility to protest your property taxes each and every year to make sure that you and your family are not paying more than your fair share of property taxes. So we're going to talk about a number of things. First, appeal annually. Second, the appeal deadline is May 15th. Third, appeal market value and unequal appraisal. Fourth, ask for the appraisal district's evidence package. Fifth, compare the appraisal district's description of your house to the actual condition of your house. Look at comparable sales, look at assessment comparables, and smile and try to work with the people at the appraisal district at the hearing. So we're going to back up now. Appeal annually. People ask, why appeal annually? That seems almost neurotic. I mean, why would you want to appeal if the value didn't go up? Well, the issue is you go to the informal hearing or the appraisal review board hearing, the results are often dependent more upon the person across the table than they are on the evidence. So you could go with the same evidence one year and get a great reduction, even though you really didn't think your evidence was that great, and go back the next year with the same evidence, and the guy goes, well, I just can't see anything. You can go talk to the board if you want to. So that's the reason, and it's the same at the board. Sometimes you get a board that's more open-minded, and sometimes you get a board that's more appraisal district-minded, and we'll just vote with the board virtually 100% of the time. So appeal your property taxes annually. It's been proven to work. Next, the property tax protest deadline is May 15th, or 30 days after the appraisal district mails a notice. File a protest on or before May 15th. Many appraisal districts allow you to do it online. File it whether or not you have received a notice of value. Because if you wait until after May 15th thinking, well, I haven't gotten the value notice yet, it may be lost in the mail. They may not send you one because they're not changing the value. So it's incumbent on you to file a protest on or before May 15th for each of your properties. For each property, protest market value, sometimes called excessive value on the form, and unequal appraisal. You want to protest both of those. And also, and you can just include a note if you're sending the protest, or you can simply send a note to the appraisal district, ask the appraisal district to provide you a copy of their hearing evidence file of the information they may present at the hearing. Now, this is really not well known, but it's great information. This is a gold mine to do well at the hearing. It really is. And very few property owners are aware of it. If you simply ask for the appraisal district's hearing evidence file, they must mail it to you by U.S. mail if you prefer. Now, many of them the appraisal districts put it online. If you can get it online, that's fine. Don't make them go to extra work. But look at that file, and we're going to start with comparing the appraisal district's description of your house with the actual condition of your house. Let's say you have a home where it was purchased in 2020 and the prior owner replaced the water heater in 2015 for a house that was built in 1960. So let's say the appraiser at the appraisal district thought, well, I'm not sure what this is, but I'm going to go ahead and just change the effective year built to 2015. Well, that has a huge impact on how they value your house. I mean, they're looking at it as a 5-year-old house instead of as a 60-year-old house. So look at the effective age, look at the level of remodel. Harris County Appraisal District, for example, has 3 levels of remodel: partial, extensive, and total. These make a huge difference in the valuation of the house. The appraisal district often has errors in the size of the house. Look at the appraisal you obtained when you purchased the house and see if the size is wrong. If you have a vaulted ceiling, I can almost guarantee that they are taxing you for more area than you really have. And look at the grade. The grade of construction is very important. In some counties it's a letter like A, B, C. In some counties it's a number like 11, 12, 13, 14. Look at the grade for your house versus the grade for nearby houses. And if your house has a higher grade than the neighboring houses, but is similar to the neighboring houses, you're going to be overtaxed on that until you can get that fixed. So the first step in the process is looking at the appraisal district's records, sometimes called the record card, to see whether or not they're accurate. And wherever they overstate the quality or size of your home, you should point that out. Now, the second step of preparing for the hearing is to look at the comparable sales. And your job here is to find 2 or 3 or 4 comparable sales that you can explain, these are the best comparable sales, and incidentally they're lower than my subject property, but here's why these are the 3 best comparable sales in my opinion. And that will provide your market value appeal. The third option is to find some neighbors that have a similar house or maybe even a nicer house in a lower level of assessment. And you can then, with great emotion, explain, this just doesn't seem right. These homeowners have homes that are larger than mine. They have a pool. Their home is cleaner than mine in terms of, recent paint, and they have a lower level of assessment. They're assessed 10% lower than me, but my house is not as nice as these. That just doesn't seem right. And that is unequal appraisal. So these are the steps in preparing for the hearing. Comparing your property with the appraisal district's information, preparing market value evidence, and preparing for unequal appraisal. There are now 2 steps in the process for appealing homes in most cases: the informal hearing and the appraisal review board hearing. We'll start with the informal hearing. At the informal hearing, you're going to be sitting across a small table from an appraiser, and they allocate about 15 to 30 minutes for each hearing, and your job is to engage with the appraiser in a pleasant manner and to try to provide that person with information that will allow them to reduce your value, which will reduce your property taxes. That person really doesn't care whether your taxes are higher or lower. They don't want to get fired for doing something that's unreasonable. Having pictures is also very helpful. Sometimes pictures will get a reduction even if they don't show that much in terms of deterioration. But it breaks up the monotony of doing property tax appeal hearings all day. So when you're working with the appraiser, this is not the time to vent about how high property taxes are and what a poor job the city does in maintaining the streets and how the county doesn't maintain flood control. The appraiser can't affect that. All he can do is lower your assessed value. And after looking at your information and considering the appraiser's information, they will make you an offer to reduce the value more often than not. Probably 60 to 80% of the time, they will make you an offer to settle the appeal. And then you have to decide whether you want to accept that offer or go to the Appraisal Review Board panel. The Appraisal Review Board panel is 3 citizens who are supposed to be impartial and independent, but are paid by the appraisal district. It's an informal process. So if you accept the offer, you're done for the year. Nothing else is required. If you don't accept the offer, you have the choice of not going forward or going forward to the Appraisal Review Board. And I would encourage you to go to the Appraisal Review Board. By law, they cannot increase your value at the Appraisal Review Board. We've had people concerned in the past that, well, what if they raise my value? No, they can't by law raise your value. So the process is the same there. It will start off with the appraiser describing your house. The ARB chairman or Appraisal Review Board chairman will then ask, is that a good description of your property? And if they have an error with the effective age, with the grade, with the condition, with the level of remodel, with the size, etc., that's when you bring that up. And in some cases, that will pause the hearing till they can go out and check and see what the issue is. But most of the hearings will go forward. The next step will be for you to present your evidence on market value and unequal appraisal and errors with the appraisal district's record card that are causing them to overvalue your property because they're overstating the quantity or quality of improvements on the property. The appraiser will then be given a chance to present his information. Sometimes the appraiser will agree that the value does seem a little bit high and they can go with your value. Other times you have an appraiser who's just going to fight tooth and nail to not give away a penny of the notice value. And that again is why we encourage protesting annually, because you just don't know the nature and attitude of the appraisal review board members and the appraiser at the appraisal review board hearing until you show up in person. There's no way to determine that ahead of time. But most appraisal review board hearings generate a reduction in the property taxes value. So as at the informal hearing, be pleasant, smile, and explain things as kindly as you can, that you just think, you know, there's been a little mistake here and you're asking for their help in correcting it. So that is the process of protesting your property taxes for Texas. Protest annually. The deadline is May 15th. Protest excessive value and market value. Request the appraisal district's hearing evidence package. Check their information. Prepare market value. Prepare unequal appraisal. Taking pictures can be very helpful. There's an informal hearing and there's an appraisal review board hearing. If you do this, you will get a reduction in your property taxes about 60 to 80% of the time you go through this process. It's almost like going to Las Vegas and having the odds in your favor. You have an excellent chance of prevailing if you will just go through this process. You don't have to hire a consultant. Of course, we love being hired. This is what we do for a living. But I'm telling you, you can do it on your own and be successful. There are steps after the appraisal review board, but generally they don't make sense for homeowners because of the cost. There is a process called binding arbitration, and if you are just so upset because you feel like you got a raw deal, you can file for binding arbitration, but you have to put up a deposit that's $450 or perhaps higher to go forward with the process. So that completes our presentation on how to protest your Texas property taxes. Thanks for watching.